Why did this photo of Priti Patel cause such a stir? The image of the Home Secretary attending what was widely reported on social media to be an immigration raid caused outrage, with many questioning the tastefulness of making a photo op out of such an event. In fact, the photo was not taken at an immigration raid, but the arrest of a suspected people smuggler, and was intended as part of a publicity drive around the Home Secretary's new plan for immigration. And in many ways, it was classic Priti Patel, but it was also more than that. The symbolism of that photo opened up a discussion which is rarely had in today's culture war debates around British history and the Empire. Specifically, the experience of Asian immigrants from former colonies and how this background shapes their views on identity, policies such as immigration, and the future path of the UK.
With the first Indian origin Home Secretary ever in the UK, Right Honourable Priti Patel.
How can Priti Patel, herself the daughter of immigrants, take the hardline approach towards immigration that she does? The answer is complicated, but ultimately it's understandable. To many, Patel's politics are clearly surprising and at times abhorrent.
On that basis alone, I would actually support the reintroduction of capital punishment.
Abhorrent to those who might expect immigrants to hold certain liberal views on immigration, but to discover the truth, we need to dig deeper. The story of Asian immigrants to the UK and their roots in the British Empire is a complex one, and it's an experience which has shaped them in a very particular way. Priti Patel's parents were part of a generation of Ugandan Asians who settled in Britain in the late 1960s and 1970s. Uganda was a protectorate of the British Empire between 1894 and 1962, and under the British, tens of thousands of Indians were brought to the country, some to build the railways, but also to act as a buffer between Europeans and Africans in the middle-class rungs of business and administration. The British invested in their education, and they tended to be better off than the Ugandan communities in which they lived. By the time it achieved independence, Indophobia had already become ingrained in Uganda.
From experience, we've discovered that Asians are very, very shrewd, and they've been exploiting this country for a very, very long time.
And in 1972, the president, Idi Amin, infamously gave the 60,000 Asians living in Uganda just 90 days to pack up their things and leave.
What will happen to these people if they don't go by the time limit?
I think they will be sitting like they are sitting on the fire. I will tell you this. You just wait after 3 months.
What will you do to them?
Okay, you will see.
You said you wanted Uganda.
I think they will not sit comfortable here in Uganda. I will tell you this.
The justification, he said, was to reverse British imperialism by giving Uganda back to ethnic Ugandans and to make the ordinary Uganda master of his own destiny. Priti Patel's family were among the 27,000 people who made use of their British citizenship and settled in the UK, eventually establishing a chain of successful newsagents. Like other minority groups of that era, they faced racism, they faced structural discrimination. But over time, Ugandan Asians established themselves in British society, so much so that today they are known as one of Britain's most successful minority communities. Patel was born in 1972 in London, and her family would be considered to be a modern migrant success story. In 2013, her father, Shashil, even stood for election as a UKIP councillor in Hertfordshire. In her own words, "My parents were kicked out of Uganda. They came to the UK with nothing, worked hard and set up a successful shop business. There was a desire to work hard and to be successful, so you didn't have to rely on anybody else. Coming from a country where you're persecuted means that you want to work hard and to contribute to the society where you end up. You become patriotic because you make your new country your home, and as a result, you live and play by its values." As we know, Patel was a prominent Brexiteer during the 2016 EU referendum, and last year she told the Daily Mail that what the British had done for Ugandan Asians had been phenomenal, and this was a strong reason why she felt that Britain could help those in Hong Kong, for example, protesting against increasing Chinese influence in the former British colony. She has also emphasised that post-Brexit, immigration to the UK should still occur, but through a points-based immigration system, by which people from across the world can demonstrate their skill set and their value.
We are fast-tracking and prioritising scientists and researchers, people that can come to our country and contribute. We've also announced a fast-track visa for people that want to come into the NHS as well.
It is a system that she readily admits would have excluded her own parents. There is a strongly held belief within this generation that when they came to the UK, they didn't have it easy. They worked hard to become a part of Britain and then valued what it gave them in return. More recently, the perception of immigrants to the UK, fostered by populist politicians and the right-wing media, is that they do not do this. Many now believe that immigrants from the EU and elsewhere have been allowed to come to Britain for an easy ride and that this must stop.
But we literally got swamped by vast numbers of people, and our public services
who contribute to the economy, who pay their taxes.
Mostly no. Mostly no.
What do you mean mostly?
It is no surprise that Priti Patel's political hero is Margaret Thatcher, with her notorious bootstraps mentality.
From the very person who inspired me to join our party. A Conservative Prime Minister elected 40 years ago this year. Margaret Thatcher knew that if you...
But Patel's positions can't simply be explained by a Thatcherite belief in individual agency and hard work. There is also another more racialised element at play, and it's a sense of belonging and loyalty to a colonial idea of what Britain is. My father, whose family had been taken to Kenya from India to build the railways for the British, enjoyed growing up under British rule. In 2016, he voted to leave the EU, in part because Europe had never been part of his identity, whereas Britain very much is. He believes that over the past decades, the UK has been negatively impacted by immigration, something he links to its membership of the EU. For my father and many others of his generation, there was and is a distinction between immigrants from former colonies, their loyalty and the contribution they have made to Britain, and migrants from the EU who want to enjoy their freedom of movement. Priti Patel believes Britain's duty is to those who have earned it through a history of contribution and a willingness to pitch in. A great uncle of mine, who also voted for Brexit, echoed how good life had been in Kenya under the British. There, Indians like him were considered middle class. Yes, they were below their white rulers, but they were also above the Kenyans, and in this way their relative position was fairly secure, despite still facing racial discrimination. For many East Asian immigrants, life under the British wasn't too bad, and it is because of this that there is a feeling amongst a number of them that they're almost more British than the British, that they have bought into a belief about what it is to be British and live that ideal more than many native Britons do. It is this legacy of the stratification of the heart of empire, the creation of classifications for different groups of people, which still has consequences today. For some, this is evidence of a colonized mindset that Asian immigrants have been co-opted to the point that they can now turn the same distrust, prejudice and judgment they faced onto others coming to Britain today. Priti Patel has talked openly about being called a Paki in the playground, about the hostility her parents faced as Asian shopkeepers, and suggestions that she take her husband's English surname to further her career. But she believes that expecting her to hold certain beliefs just because of her ethnic background is in itself racist, because it boxes her into having to be a certain type of minority and diminishes her agency as an individual with the right to think however she wants.
So when it comes to racism, sexism,
tolerance or social justice, I will not take lectures from the other side of the house. I have already said repeatedly, there is no place for racism in our country or in society. And sadly, too many people are too willing, too casually, to dismiss the contributions of those who don't necessarily conform to preconceived views or ideas about how ethnic minorities should behave or think. This, Madam Deputy Speaker, in my view, is racist in itself.
To a certain degree, she is right. Race is not experienced by all ethnic minority people in the same way. But it is precisely for this reason that one might also expect the Home Secretary to have a broader understanding of the impact of her attitudes towards race and her policies on issues such as immigration on those who haven't enjoyed the same success that she has. Ultimately, what seems to be missing is the knowledge that we can be shaped so powerfully by complicated forces that they become limiting. For Priti Patel, the impact of this limitation extends far beyond herself to the country as a whole. This is why, when that photo emerged, it caused such a stir, because Priti Patel is so limited by her belief in her own experience that she could not see why a degrading and affronting picture of a senior politician passively watching over the arrest of a person of colour could be so damaging. And it's this image which offers an unflattering reflection of a Britain in which there are still good immigrants and bad immigrants, and a country still shaped by a past it would rather forget. While Priti Patel continues to serve as the ultimate example of the right type of immigrant, this story of colonialism will continue to play out, ultimately affecting us all. Thanks for watching. Byline TV is funded by its subscribers, and if you want to help us keep holding the government to account and uncovering the truth, you can sign up on Patreon or YouTube. Just follow the links below.